All right, so today we're diving into something kind of different. We're looking at, well, the aftermath of Hurricane Helene,
Right.
and specifically how people are stepping up to help. Usually
Okay.
we think of, like, the Red Cross, right?
Yeah, or FEMA, government agencies.
Exactly, big organizations.
Right.
But this time there's a twist. We're talking about a GoFundMe campaign.
Okay.
And get this, it's already raised a ton of money,
Really? How much are we talking?
over $7 million.
Wow.
And it's backed by former President Trump and his supporters,
Hmm.
which, might surprise some people.
Yeah, that's a significant amount of money, especially considering how quickly it was raised. It really highlights the power of online platforms for this kind of thing. $7 million can make a real difference in those crucial early days and weeks after a disaster.
Absolutely, yeah. Thinking about how fast it came together, it really makes you wonder if this is like a sign of things to come. Like, is this how we're going to be doing disaster relief moving forward? But anyway, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's talk about where exactly this money's going. According to this, they're dividing it between 4 organizations: Samaritan's Purse, Water Mission, Clinch Foundation, and MTN2C Ministries. Some interesting choices there.
Definitely. Each organization has its own area of expertise. Samaritan's Purse, for example, they're pretty well known. They've got a long history of disaster relief work internationally, often with a faith-based approach. Earthquakes, hurricanes, they're often some of the first on the ground.
Wow, they sound really experienced.
They are. Then you've got Water Mission.
Yeah.
As you might guess, they specialize in, well, water.
Makes sense. Clean water is usually one of the first things to go after a big storm.
Exactly. And it's essential, obviously. So they focus on restoring access to safe water in disaster-stricken areas. Now, Clinch Foundation and MTN2C Ministries, they're a bit smaller in scale compared to the first two, but they've both got solid experience working on the ground directly with communities impacted by disasters.
Gotcha. So a real mix of organizations, big and small. It also says here that the first round of funds has already been distributed, with more on the way. I mean, that's incredibly fast. It's really interesting to think about the potential impact of, bypassing those traditional channels. Do you think faster is always better when it comes to disaster relief?
That's a tough one. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, to be honest. On the one hand, yeah, getting aid to people quickly is crucial, especially right after the disaster. Those first few days and weeks can be critical. But on the other hand, there are questions about oversight and accountability. Like, when you bypass the traditional systems, how do you make sure the funds are used effectively and responsibly?
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And then there's the question of, like, is this model going to lead to disaster relief becoming even more politicized?
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. And this whole situation begs another question. Is this a one-off thing? Or are we going to see more political figures utilizing their platforms and followings to directly fundraise for causes like disaster relief in the future?
Right. It's certainly an interesting precedent. And if so, what does that mean for the future of disaster relief?
Right. Will this direct online model become the norm? What are the long-term implications, both positive and negative? I don't think we have those answers yet, but it's definitely something worth paying attention to as we move forward.